welcome to the Maxim Institute podcast. My name is Alapasita Pomelile. I am a researcher here at Maxim Institute, and this is our weekly short form podcast. These podcasts are released in tandem with our weekly column and are a chance for you to hear in depth from the column's author about some of the thinking that went into producing their final piece. Today, we talk to the wonderful Maxim Communications Manager, Jason Heale, about his recent column. Alrighty, welcome Jason. Welcome back to the podcast. This week we're talking about your recent column, Hot Column 2, titled The Te Pukenga Debacle, One Size Doesn't Fit All. First of all, what is Te Pukenga?
That is a great question, Ala. It's great to be here on the podcast. I was going to say that's the $1 million question. What is Te Pukenga?
It's a bit more, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more like the $3.5 million question. They spent $3.5 million on a campaign to help us understand exactly who they are and what they do. It's a newly or recently created Crown entity, I think in 2020. And it now runs the 25 tertiary providers and vocational education institutes. They used to be independent, so think Unitech, think Open Polytech, think Wintech, think Otago, Nelson. All these polytechnical institutes used to be independent, and now they've all been merged together under one umbrella, Te Pukenga. Basically, it was decided that some of them weren't performing, and so instead of just closing those ones, we would merge them all into one and try and get the Crown to run them so that they would have profit. So that's kind of what Te Pukenga is. It's the resulting organisation that runs all of our polytechs.
Yeah, and it sounds like what's happened is centralisation, or a shift towards it anyways, again.
Yeah. Seems to be a recurring theme in New Zealand for some reason.
Why do you think that is?
Look, I don't have a solid answer for that, but if I was going to kind of take a guess at one of the many reasons, I would say it's probably a fear of being held accountable and being held responsible for something. Yeah. Like, I think we like to pass the blame. We like to pass the buck. I think of recently when the Prime Minister was asked about the increasing crime rates in the flood areas. Right. And he said, that's not what I've heard. That's, anything that's going to increase people's worry should not be talked about. And then it turned out that those stories about people being held at gunpoint and gangs intimidating people were true. Yeah. And then he said, I had bad intel from the police, and I'm really sorry that my intel was bad. And so it's kind of like, we'll just pass it on to the next person, or we'll throw someone under the bus, or I don't want to do that, so I'm going to pass it on to the government, or I couldn't run this polytech, so I'll just let the government do it, rather than trying to, I guess, fix it and take responsibility and dig in, or just go, look, it's not going to work, we're going to have to close it down, or Or
on the other hand, the state comes in thinking it's the saviour.
Yeah, well, I guess they think, well, we've got unlimited amounts of money, we can fix this problem, and I think just having money doesn't necessarily mean that you can run something better than someone who's boots on the ground. I mean, a lot of the staff members at Otago Polytech submitted against this when it was created. They said that they felt they were being set up to fail, which is pretty telling considering that Otago is one of the more successful polytechs. Correct. And they were like, look, we're just going to be set up to fail. We don't want to do this. We think it's a bad idea. The National MP, Penny Simmons, who used to be the CEO of SIT, Southern Institute of Technology, she said the same thing. She said, look, you can't just merge all of these technical institutions into one and that's going to solve all your problems. Correct. In fact, some people have argued that it's made it worse because the total deficit of all the institutions has more than doubled since Te Pukenga started. Wow. And then they've lost, how many staff is it now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staff members since in 2 years. Yeah. Chief executive level, executive level staff members.
And a potentially growing list too.
Yeah. It's not like that's it now. All their problems
Yeah.
are solved now that these 5 people have left.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that sort of mismatch in what's happening on the ground and how people on the ground feel very differently to the intention of this merger,
Yeah.
what else has this merger really shown?
I think it's shown that the Ivory Tower people kind of think of New Zealand in terms of its urban centres, like
correct.
Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch,
Yeah.
maybe Hamilton and Dunedin if we're lucky,
Division 2.
Yeah, that's right. They're the second level, that's
Yeah.
right. But
They're
more
towns.
Yeah, they're towns, not the cities, the big centres where you fly in the planes, and
Yeah.
and you drive through and you stop on your destination. No, so what they've done is kind of taken some of these really successful rural technology institutes and kind of merged them into the urban centres and said, well, rural New Zealand, we don't really care about your development. And see, the thing is, these sort of vocational training things are a stepping stone up for people
Correct.
who want to step out of poverty or want to make a change in their life. And if they have to move from their small town or their rural area to the city, they're less likely to go back and to
Correct.
reinvest in that town, to set up a mechanic shop there or invest in farming there.
Yeah.
They're all just going to kind of stay in the urban centre and maybe move to the fringes.
Yeah.
I think it's just exacerbating the slow death of rural New Zealand, which is it's a sad thing because we, primary industries is like 80% of our exports.
That's right.
Backbone
of this.
Yeah,
country.
it is. It's what we rely on, and so we really need to look after our rural sector, and this is not the way to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for an enlightening column on, actually highlighting the importance of ensuring that there is, fairness across the board in terms of urban and regional, but also regional and rural development is equally as important as urban development. So thanks for coming along this week, Jason.
Thanks for hosting me, Ala. Great to be here.
And now, let's hear from Jason as he reads his column.
While Hurricane Gabrielle has been rightly dominating the news, another disaster has been unfolding off the radar. I'm talking about the latest in what is fast becoming a long line of resignations at an organisation called Te Pukenga. Richard Forgan, Deputy Chief Executive Strategy and Transformation, recently left the job a mere 10 weeks after starting. He follows Chief Executive Stephen Town, August 2022, and Chief Financial Officer Mark Walker, September 2022. Deputy Chief Executive Merrin Davis quit in April 2021. What exactly is Te Pukenga? It is the newish Crown entity that recently spent $3.5 million on a campaign to help us understand precisely what it does. Put briefly, Te Pukenga now runs 25 tertiary providers in vocational education. 25 previously independent organisations merged into one. Why? Because some of them were underperforming financially. The hope is to simplify vocational education and training and make it profitable. In other words, time to cut our losses with another merger. More broadly, vocational education is an overlooked area of the tertiary sector that offers chances, lifelines, and hope for those looking for a step up in life. Unfortunately, it's outside of the preschool, primary, secondary, university treadmill. Cutting access to the vocational ecosystem will leave those it serves with fewer paths to bettering themselves. We're also watching a real-time example of why centralisation is not the answer to regional problems. People at the coalface of successful institutions don't like it. Staff members at Otago Polytechnic, one of Aotearoa New Zealand's best-performing vocational educational centres, submitted against the merger when it was first proposed. They were concerned they were being set up to fail, and those who've been in the business aren't sure this initiative will work. National MP Penny Simmons, the former CEO of Southern Institute of Technology, says just simply merging them doesn't fix all the problems. What we are fixing is reducing the number of intermediary institutions that give many people purpose, meaning, and hope. And why should one size fit all? Yes, some of the vocational providers weren't performing well. But at a time when the regions are doing it tough, shouldn't we be amplifying regional development through institutions like these? Rather than absorbing regional vocational providers into large metropolitan institutions, why don't we implement more of what works? It's counterproductive and confusing. What is certain is that if nothing changes, the resignations will continue. Those organisations that are succeeding, like Nelson Polytechnic, should have the autonomy to continue to offer the specialised education services their people need. Local communities need to thrive. It's the same for areas trying to recover post-Cyclone Gabrielle as it is for Te Pukenga. In the fixing, one size won't fit all.
Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team here at Maxim Institute, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.